I have recently been asked what do I think of the current infighting in the Society of St. Pius X. You probably have noticed if you've been looking at my channel lately, we're now in February, or no, at the end of January of 2014, January 24th, Fish Eater Friday. I've been uploading videos about the Society of St. Pius X because I've been thinking about the Society of St. Pius X. Remember, way back from 74 to 81, I was actually associated with them. And I've noticed that some of the stories going around about that time are just pure fiction, but that's another story. After the Consecrations in 1988, the Society had a major exodus to join with the Conciliar Church and take advantage of the first indult for the Latin Mass. I think there may have been a real small one prior to that, but as soon as Lefebvre made his act of schism from the Novus Ordo Church and by consecrating bishops, the Novus Ordo Church said, well, let's give them a Latin Mass. After that, though, it has stabilized, occasionally losing a priest either to the Conciliar Church, indult, Latin Mass, or the other direction to the Sedeprivationism. I don't know how many they have lost, but I mean, losses have been reduced. In fact, I've been kind of surprised. When I saw Lefebvre consecrate 4 bishops, I thought, as soon as he's gone, there's going to be a split. There wasn't. Okay, about 9 months ago, I ran into a man and got to talking to him. He's a Sedeprivationist, but knows about the society, etc. He said Archbishop Lefebvre made 2 big mistakes, and I have to agree, actually it's 3 big mistakes. Because the second mistake leads to the third. And it is these mistakes that have led to the current problems in the Society of St. Pius X, and why the Society of St. Pius X has always been on the wrong foot. I don't think it was ever right. If you look back, I don't think it was ever right. The first problem is in not declaring the new rite of ordination per se invalid. You notice Lefebvre was always wishy-washy on that. Well, some celebrations of the Novus Ordo Mass are invalid, and it's becoming increasingly so because of the intention of the minister. No, the dadgum rite itself is wrong, especially we got to focus on ordination, because that's what he focused on. That was his claim to fame. I'm ordaining priests for you. I'm giving you valid priests. And this is what caused him to lose 9 priests in 1983 and have another 3 stay under the radar to get ordained in 1984 and then hit the exits. No. Instead, the Society of St. Pius X holds that the new rite of ordination is absolutely valid and defends it as such. Just go onto their websites. You can read the articles if you wish to waste your time. They have accepted a bishop who was ordained in 1970, and they have accepted priests ordained in the new rite, including a Mr. Philip Stark in about he was accepted in 1979, because he was with the society in 79. That's what got the 9 priests going, because there was meetings about Stark. And I say Mr. Stark because he ordained in the new rite, not a Catholic priest. In fact, not any kind of priest. Well, he could be a Druid priest or something. That's something different. If the new rite of ordination is valid, then why consecrate bishops in 1988? The priesthood is not in danger of extinction. There are plenty of valid bishops running around that could supply. The reason given is to preserve sacramental bishops who will provide us with sacramental priests in order to preserve tradition. And yet in tradition there's no such thing as a sacramental bishop or a sacramental priest. This is a new invention. The Society of St. Pius X invented the idea. Lefebvre was a sacramental bishop in the Society of St. Pius X. He was laying on hands. He was confirming. Okay? Baptizing. His priests were marrying, celebrating the Mass, hearing confessions. We won't get into the matter of jurisdiction here. We'll get on a really long thing. Basically, according to the Society of St. Pius X and in traditionalism in general, priests are merely administrators of the sacraments. Bishops are merely administrators of the sacraments. Bishop Daniel Dolan says so much. He's quoted in the book, The Smoke of Satan. He says that no organization can live without sacramental bishops. And he takes for his example from Archbishop Lefebvre, who provided 4 sacramental bishops, because he knew he wasn't going to live a whole lot longer. He was getting awful old. And so, let us consider, what is a sacramental bishop? He lays hands on a man's head. The second he lays hands on that man's head and that man becomes a priest, that sacramental bishop has no real authority over him. He has no more authority than the priest he just ordained, because neither has any authority in the Catholic Church. The Church is hierarchical. Basically, Lefebvre and the Society have no authority to do 95% of things they do. And this is only if we admit their claims that they're unlawfully suppressed, and that they do actually exist as some sort of Catholic organization, which I don't think they ever were a Catholic organization, but we're going to admit that for case of discussion here. So the Society of St. Pius X is not preserving tradition at all, but providing sacramental priests and sacramental bishops. And this brings us to the other big mistake, which leads finally to his ultimate mistake. The second mistake is not declaring the papacy vacant. By his actions in 1988, in essence, he declared the papacy vacant, because that's the only justification for consecrating bishops, is to consecrate bishops until we can hold a papal election and end the vacancy. That would be the only justification. If John Paul II was Pope, you need his permission to consecrate bishops. Absolutely. When Lefebvre consecrated against his direct order, he was in disobedience, and he was rightfully excommunicated for the crime of schism. As were the bishops, as was Bishop de Castro-Mayer. They got it wrong. Bishop Took consecrated bishops in the vacancy of the papacy. Okay, that was his only justification. I won't get off on the Took bishops. If John Paul II is not defending the Catholic faith and tradition, then there might be a reason to consecrate bishops. But most certainly such a man cannot in any way, shape, or form be Pope. When Lefebvre laid hands on the bishop's head, he in essence declared the papacy vacant by his actions. He's saying, John Paul II, what you're doing is not Catholic. Therefore, you are not a Catholic. In order to preserve the Catholic Church, I'm consecrating bishops, not to preserve the society. The society has no right to exist, in essence. The Catholic Church will exist to the end of time. Lefebvre's biggest problem is thinking he remained in the Church, when in fact he was not even in the Church's own self. If John Paul II was Pope, then Lefebvre was lawfully excommunicated from the Catholic Church in 1988 for the crime of schism. Therefore, he left the Catholic Church. It's right there in, I believe it's Humani Generis. Schismatics leave the Church. If John Paul II was not Pope, Lefebvre was a schismatic for accepting an anti-pope as the true pope. So no matter how you slice it, the SSPX position is schismatic. Okay, but let us go forward. The society continues on their strange course, I'll call it. Alright, in the latter part of the last decade, Bishop Fillet began working on healing the schism between the Society of St. Pius X and the church which they claim is Catholic and has the true Pope, which we ourselves call the Conciliar Church, since Paul VI, anti-Pope Paul VI, at the end of Vatican II, said, we have the Church of the Council, or Conciliar Church. I've seen both translations. Okay. If Fillet and the Society believe that Benedict XVI was Pope, because that's who was in at the time, it is only right, for it is absolutely necessary to be subject to the Pope in order to save our own souls. Alright. Can I help save your soul if I'm not trying to save my own soul? So for the salvation of souls, they needed to heal this rift. Bishop Williamson and the priests who have joined with him argue that Rome has not converted. I would say Rome is perverted rather than converted, but that's my own opinion. That there still is, quote, modernist Rome as opposed to, quote, Catholic Rome. And so there should be no deal. Fillet argues that we should get a practical agreement and convert from within. There are arguments against that. There is the example of the bishop and priest down in Sao Paulo, Brazil, descendants from Bishop de Castro Mayer. They're right back into the Conciliar Church. I've seen a picture of their bishop concelebrating the Novus Ordo. Need I have any more proof? Who's getting converted to what? But let us look at this idea of Modernist and Catholic Rome. It is a schizophrenic church and a schizophrenic pope. And so the maxim, Rome has spoken, the case is closed, has now become, Rome has spoken, the debate is on. If the declaration is Catholic, they'll accept it. If not, they reject it. This is just the private interpretation of Protestantism applied to the declarations of the Pope. Protestants apply it to the Bible. I can interpret the Bible my own self. No, I can't do that. The church has to interpret it for me. And what good is a Pope if every time he says something official, we're going to debate whether it's Catholic or not? Who are we making ourselves? We're making ourselves Pope. The Society of St. Pius X position is much like the Sedeprivationists. So why did they get rid of Abbé Gerard de Laurier back in 77? Yeah, because he had just left before I entered. In 77, Eddie Combe. They basically hold that when George Bergoglio converts and becomes Catholic, he will be fully Pope. That's the Sedeprivationist position. The difference between Sedeprivationism is that the Sedeprivationists state that he has only a partial claim. I think he is material Pope and not formally. I know. I believed it was a load of you-know-what. The second I heard it back in the early 80s, I thought, it's absolutely certain. Either he is Pope or he is not Pope. There is none of this halfway garbage. The Society claims he is indeed Pope, but when he doesn't act like it, we can ignore him. We can ignore the Pope. We can disobey the Pope when we don't like what he says. Let's give this position to a little child. And they're going to their parents in this way. I don't think it's a good idea. And so let us get down to who is right in this battle in the Society of St. Pius X. Is it Bishop Fillet and the mainstream society, or is it Bishop Williamson and his group, which has no real name, although I've heard it called Society of St. Pius X Strict Observance, at least among some of them. This is a time when both sides are wrong. Cum ex apostolatus officio is clear that the election of a heretic is absolutely invalid, cannot in any way have any claim to validity. Therefore, Mr. Bergoglio is not Pope. We can say the same true of Father Ratzinger, Bishop Wojtyla, Bishop Luciani, Bishop Montini, etc. They have absolutely no claim to the papacy. Sedeprivationism is wrong. The society position is wrong. And see, this is maybe why the devil had this happen. Okay? To keep people on one side or the other. Because we have a bad habit in these types of situations of presuming that one side is right and the other one is wrong, when it is possible for both sides to be wrong. And how better for the devil to deceive us, to get us into one of these situations where both sides are wrong and we choose one side over the other, when we actually ought to hit the exit and say, you're all full of it. The right thing has always been to walk away from the Society of St. Pius X, because they were never right. It is time for the Society of St. Pius X to leave its schism and to return to the Catholic Church. Actually, they've never been in the Catholic Church. They were founded in the Conciliar Church in 1970. Lefebvre was celebrating the Novus Ordo until Christmas Eve of 1971. It was a Novus Ordo organization, not a Catholic organization. Oh yes, they were going to keep tradition and the theology. Great. I guess I'll take part of a pie? No. This is an all or none situation. We have to have the Catholic faith, whole and entire. We have to have the Catholic rites of the sacraments. We have to have a Catholic as Pope. Okay? And so, I would say this is the devil keeping things churned up so that people will fall out on the wrong side no matter what. So let us look at this society situation. And I apologize for going on so long, but this is a big question. Because the Society of St. Pius X, in my opinion, was set up to deceive the elect. I'll discuss that more in a separate video. Well, have a good Friday, and I hope that your fish is not overdone.